You can do it. Dr. Stephen Ginsborg, please.
And the clicker?
Yep, the clicker's here.
Great.
And that's much easier.
Hello, everyone. I'm the old man of the team. I'm 75, and so excuse any dodderiness as I go through my presentation. So you can do it, and I'd like to, as a newcomer, I've only been here 45 years, so I'm a newcomer, acknowledge that we meet today on Aboriginal land, always was and always will be, and I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. First Nations cultures, as you know, have survived on this continent for over 60,000 years, and prior to 1788, people were in better health than by most of today's indicators of our health in 2024. One of the ways that enabled families and communities to thrive in life and death were social structures based on self and mutual care, and a sense of country from which current social choices for addressing social isolation and building connection has much to learn. So the Ottawa Charter, which Samar mentioned, in 1986, and I'd like to think that we've actually ticked all those boxes, but we haven't. And the one that, well, they're all really what we're trying to do, but I'm afraid that the health system has rather neglected most of those. They are all public health measures, and I could do if we had more time, I'd do a straw poll in the room for the audience to know how much of our national health budget is spent on public health. It's around 1.3%. What do we mean by compassion? So everyone has their own idea of what compassion is, but as an organisation, we have put our heads together and we will respond with a shared humanity and kindness to each person's pain, distress and need. We look for the things we can do, however small you may think they may be, to give comfort and relief. We have time for those we support and work alongside. We do not want to be asked because we care already. Now, one of the great advocates for compassion is Pooh Bear. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend. Piglet sidled up to Pooh from behind. Pooh, he whispered. Yes, Piglet? Nothing, said Piglet, taking Pooh's hand. I just wanted to be sure of you. This is our work. We're rowing against a strong tide of over-medicalisation of living, dying and grieving. That tide is taking communities' health and death literacy with it. The fiscal burden of this and a disheartened workforce is leading us to rely on virtual care. We can swim and row back with the incoming tide of communities' wishes for choice, connection and compassion. Nothing for us without us, the motto of the disability movement. And the journey to the other shore, we will row together, building partnerships and opportunities for the community and formal services to work together as a team. I'm one of those formal services. Nurses, you know all the services and providers that fill our lives. Well, we also have compassionate communities to fill our lives. Margaret Mead's famous quote, helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts. You notice the beginning of these words, C-O, together. Connection, cooperating, compassion. And compassion, and I thank Alan Kelleher for this in one of his books where he looks into the origin of the word. Compassion is doing something with another. There's the co. And passion, of course, is suffering. The Passion of St. Matthew or the Passion of St. John, pieces of music. Care is doing something for another. So they both need each other. It benefits everyone. Sometimes the person who's giving the care thinks that they've benefited more than the person they're giving care to. And we must have community acting with doctors, with nurses, and with all the services. Reanimating, rekindling people's ability to act kindly, compassionately, caringly, and skillfully. I don't like the word empowering because community never lost its power. It was taken from them by the medical system. This is the doctor's life, or some doctors' lives. We see social isolation and loneliness. Samar's mentioned the organisation Ending Loneliness Together. Any of you who haven't seen their website, it's an important place to go. And so with the black arrows, we tend to see the social and emotional distress, the chronic disease, the dementia, the obesity, renal disease, cardiovascular and lung disease, and they're medicalized. And dementia, obesity, renal disease, and those chronic diseases can all be mitigated in their morbidity and mortality by between 30 and 50%. And that's where connection, intergenerational connection, compassionate and connected communities, and an awareness of the social determinants of health comes in. It would make the doctor's day much easier if we took that load off them so that they could concentrate on the things that we are most skilled in. So here's Edward Bear coming downstairs. Now bump, bump, bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels there is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And we're trying to think there is another way. These are the old paradigms. I won't go through them because you'll be able to see them if you get the slide. But they're these are all the old ways, top down, professionals, services, relies on funding, not sustainable. I put a question after sustainable, but it's not sustainable, and always led by the professionals. These are the ways we'd rather go. Proactive, not reactive. Strengths, asset-based. What's strong, not what's wrong. Strengthening community. Common sense. What community has always had. Common sense. And common is the community. It's fiscally favourable, as Samar has just shown you. It is sustainable, and the leaders, like these wise birds, they stand back and let others take the place. So this was written in 2018, and it describes the old power and the new power, and really it's the complement of that list I just gave you of the paradigms. It's leader-driven is the old power, and the new power is peer-driven. Helen Bevan, if anyone knows who founded the National Health Service in the UK, would know the name Bevan. She was the Chief Transformation Officer of the National Health Service, and this was published in The Lancet, where they decided it was a good idea to make cartoons of things. It was easy to understand. And again, have a look at it carefully when you get the slides, if you want to. Support people to build their agency and power at every level of the system. Action, small-scale changes. We can all do it. Little things within a large-scale framework. Unleash learning as a power for transformation, predict and prevent, and the root of our transformation efforts in a sense of belonging. The poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for is the greatest poverty. We must start in our own homes to remedy this poverty. So what can we do? Who's on your team? Who do you want? Who's got your back? Have a dinner. Have a conversation. Find 5 people to start the ball rolling. I've got your back, you've got my back. Start it early. Start it when you're young. You don't know what's going to happen. We all need each other. And then we won't need the services so much. Gain skills. It's a mutual process. We all have something to learn from. Two-way, as Aboriginal communities call it. We can learn from you, and you can learn from us. First aid. We're already doing it. First aid. I always think, in terms of end of life, we should have a last aid. People are afraid to do things around death. That's become inculcated in our culture. But most skills that you need for 95% of helping someone die are less complicated than learning to drive. And I'm backed up on that by my colleague, Joe, who's the pointy end of the palliative care system. I'm just the person in primary care. Different skills for different situations. I think that this process, this concept of compassionate communities, can be cut and pasted, as it were, into all stages of life. Perinatal, adolescence, unemployment, early disease, late disease, whatever it be. And remember that sometimes a hot drink is more important than a hot line. I'm putting up this picture because compassionate communities has always had a very strong basis in the arts. These are photographs, but painting, music, whatever. Quilting, they are all an important part of bringing community together and creating together. This one is a picture of someone alone on the road. I invite you afterwards just to think, well, what does this bring up for you? That's the power of art. What does this make you think? And this one, I often show an image like this to the families of people who are dying, or the dying person. This is the road. We don't know how far that goes. It seems to go into infinity. But to have an image often helps. If you're in a hospital bed and a white wall, to have an image of where is this journey going can be very helpful. You can do it. The possibility of creating a more compassionate society may sound far-fetched, but attitudes and values change over time, sometimes remarkably quickly. And that was 2013. And Wise Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Many people would have seen this slide. Give a family a fish is a charitable act. Teach a family to fish is sustainable. And what we really want is to organize a community-based, intergenerational fishing collective. And then that will be social change. I think we can do it.